Happy Tuesday, NIO fam. We'll get to the numbers here in just a second, but first I wanted to point out my most recent video, the one where I really just had fun out of the comments section. I was inspired by the comments, some people saying NIO stock going down to $1 to $2. I'm laughing because I think that's ridiculous. I never offered my opinion in that video, but I really just wanted to get the take and sense from other people. Also, some of whom were saying, $20 to $25 more likely in this year of 2025. I did not offer my opinion. I will if you want me to. I also haven't gotten to the comment section as I typically would. And so I've debated maybe I'll do a video and do the comments and response and actually respond to some of the comments. Let me know if you want me to do that. Just click a thumbs up on this video or drop it in the comments if you want me to do that. And I'll try to get at least a partial video done and highlight some of those comments. But now let's get into the data. During Chinese New Year, I'm really more curious about what the swap numbers are looking like for NIO. And so that's something we're not even going to discuss in this video. But for all the folks who are talking about the quote unquote bad or low delivery numbers or insurance registration data, they never seem to reference the increasing, the growing, and in some cases, huge numbers of swapping that are going on at the same time. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where I think the lens, the narrative, the view, it makes a difference. But as far as NIO and Onvo together for the week of February 3rd through the 9th, this is the first full week in February, 1,500, the combined numbers on the insurance registration side of things. This data doesn't come from NIO, but I'm really just kind of looking ahead to, this first quarter, really, I'm just kind of tracking things, not worried about anything, more curious about sentiment and if we'll see sentiment shift. The Onvo numbers looking like a steep drop off here, 370. I'm sure some people will have some negative comments to say about that, but here's an interesting kind of a correlation with BMW, Mercedes, and Audi. They all dropped off quite a bit as well in the weekly numbers. Again, Chinese New Year, it has an impact on all these things. If you're wondering, to put things into context and sort of the overview of how NIO's Onvo brand, the sub-brand Ladao, the L60, is faring in this year of 2025 within the Chinese market. Here's a nice tweet sort of highlighting that. This is last year, and the monthly numbers for January, February, and March. Again, this is the first quarter of last year. And what I heard a lot of and saw a lot of in the comment section were people already complaining and saying that NIO was never going to get to their yearly goal on the numbers. They did get to their yearly goal on the numbers, but NIO, I thought, made an improvement last year with their cadence and what they were doing behind the scenes with refreshes. And so with new models, new brands, and a lot of things happening behind the scenes this year, I also think this first quarter is more important for them to position to make sure they can come in by the end of year with their goals. And so I'm a lot less focused and concerned about the weekly and even monthly numbers, the data these first few months. And then even last year, if you look at, how things shifted and changed, you had the end of year with the big number and then the drop off into Chinese New Year timeframe. But after that first quarter, numbers started going up and you had a new record by the time, I think this was May of last year. So, I think we're going to see a similar trajectory on the monthly side of things, but it's just way too early for me to get concerned or worried about anything. And again, big picture, Chinese New Year is a time of year where, things are slower. People are traveling, they're back home, seeing family. And I think it's more important actually for NIO from the standpoint of what they're doing with the swapping and the power swap stations than anything else at this time of year. But I'm hoping that they're positioning and getting ready to really ramp numbers on the delivery side of things in the second quarter and then through the rest of the year. That's my thought anyway. This is something I want to point out because I always like seeing this data. There are two asterisks for me. First of all, this is just 1 month of data. Second of all, this is January, which is a Chinese New Year month. So two reasons that I'm not too hung up on it, but I do like to see and have an idea of, let's say, how far the pure battery electric vehicle market penetration is. And so just for this 1 month, it was 25%, but even over the last couple of years, if we look back, that's pretty consistent is what it looks like, about a 25%. And especially on the high end where Mercedes, BMW, and Audi are doing their business, and that's the NIO brand competing with those folks, they're still, the heavy majority of those sales are still going to gas vehicles. In the future, that will change. And so can they keep the sales? Will others pick it up? Like NIO, Zeekr, I think another one to watch. I do believe that, and Li Auto, I think, also wants to take some of that market segment. So let's see what happens with the pure BEVs moving forward. But again, overall, all price ranges 25% BEV market penetration. Again, I think it's probably less than 20%. That's just a guess. I don't have the data right offhand. When I see it, I'll share it. And that's for the upper sort of 300,000 RMB or yuan and above price range in China. But this, I also want to highlight briefly, and shout out, thanks, Jeff. I was just anonymously on the spaces that they had for just a few minutes. I wasn't able to hear much of it, but I did hear him discussing this a little bit. And I do think, and I wanted to point it out, that's why I retweeted it. You know, the NIO fam is the thing I value the most, actually. I really love the global community, the opportunity to dialogue and learn from others, as well as sharing and comparing notes and research. And I love it. The NIO global community is NIO fam, as I call y'all, is my favorite thing about the community, and it's the number one reason I have a channel in the first place, is to share with you all. And so, you know, that is something I wanted to point out. As far as the blocking and you know, hiding people from the channel or things like that, I do appreciate dialogue. And usually, even before I remove someone, there have to be like repeat offenses for me to do something like that. Authentic dialogue, I really do appreciate, but that is much, much more valuable to me versus hate or closed-minded criticism. And there's a big difference when folks are, let's say, and there's one that comes to mind, a user recently only coming into videos and being negative, and I see it not just on mine, but other NIO content creator videos as well. And then when I try to engage in actual dialogue, there's no response. And this is very common. And so to me, that's not authentic dialogue. There is no dialogue. It's this hate, closed-minded criticism, that sort of thing instead. And so, you know, I'm only going to tolerate that from certain people for so long, if that makes sense, because my time is valuable. The other people who are also sharing information and research and you know, who do have, frankly, a more positive outlook on maybe life and investments in NIO, also seem to value their time a little more. So I want to keep in line with that. Misinformation is a big problem. I actually like that NIO has made a point of stating that this is a problem and they are willing to pay for people to help them sort of deal with some of this. And I am thinking of reaching out to them privately and sharing some things with them, because I do think that there is some information that they can benefit from at least having more awareness of. And I don't know if anything further than that will happen from it. I'm not concerned about that. That's for them to decide. But, you know, unchecked ego, I think, is the other thing. It's okay to say, I don't know. There's one thing I do know. I don't know much. I'm going to be wrong sometimes. And so, you know, for me, it's remaining not just humble, but grounded, and recognizing that because I know I can be wrong, I actually appreciate it when people within the community point that out. But it's also frustrating when others in the community make the mistake of, and maybe they're so smart that they don't realize, you know, this is one of my quotes, I've talked about it before, is that the problem with smart people is they think they're smart. And to me, that means they forget that they can be wrong sometimes. And so maybe they're missing things and don't realize it. I don't have that issue. I know that I'm not that smart. And so I focus on the work and stay, you know, in kind of research mode and always trying to, there are times where I will quadruple check something before I offer it in a video, because I want to make sure, or before a response, I want to make sure, hey, if I made a mistake, I need to correct myself on it. So, so anyway, that's something that it does matter. Again, back to the time, you know, time, we all get to choose how valuable our time is. And I do think it's the one thing we don't get back. You can make money, lose money, make it again. Time, we don't get to replace. It's irreplaceable. And so I hope to respect others' time and have that reciprocated as well. So that's sort of my thinking with that. I just wanted to offer that because it is something that I, especially early on with the channel, I never anticipated that I would be removing people or users or accounts or that sort of thing. But I also, you know, hadn't realized just how negative and toxic and nasty, frankly, some of the social media platforms had become, because I was away from internet for a number of years and so not actively engaged in it. And so anyway, that's maybe me sharing way too much. Maybe you appreciated something that I said, and if not, no worries, drop it in the comments and we can dialogue about it again. I appreciate honest and authentic dialogue. It is truly appreciated. So, and it's one of the things I enjoy. I learn from it, from being able to see what others are thinking. For example, right now, I know a lot of NIO bulls, and they say they have a really long-term view. They're very frustrated with things right now. And to me, it's as simple as kind of recognizing, well, that's probably an indicator of sentiment, and that's probably reflective of the stock price, and the stock price, which I think shorts have been in control of for several years. And that's just what it is. And so I don't get all hung up in the emotion, but I also like to recognize that if others are getting frustrated, then that could be, a broader indicator of why maybe we see the low trade volume for right now. And so maybe we have to wait for profitability from NIO for that to change. I think I personally like the conservative view. I've got it at the bottom of the, not on the ticker, but right above the ticker, the three major growth phases from early on, from years ago that I referenced. 1 million NIO sales. They're not even to 700,000. So obviously I'm giving them more time, a few years. That's my sort of conservative view. Now, if we get to that point and they haven't become profitable, then I'm going to have to do a video and be like, oh man, it looks like I was wrong. I was missing some things, and maybe it is a unicorn, but maybe it's just a baby unicorn still. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I will call myself out if I'm wrong. I've done it before. I'm not afraid to do it again. So anyway, thanks for sticking around to the end. This ended up being a rant, and I totally did not intend for it to be that. So I hope you enjoyed something that I said, or at least got some entertainment value out of it, if nothing else. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see y'all again very soon.